What's up, gentlemen? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, welcome to the channel. In this video, we are going to get into the unbelievable true story of how I got arrested in Thailand and how I almost went to jail, the lessons I learned. But before we go ahead and get into that story, smash the like button, costs you nothing, means the world to me, really helps me out with the algorithm. It also helps if you drop a comment down below. I would truly appreciate it. Now, with all that said, let's get into this story. But before we get in the story, I have to give you some pretext, I think is the word I am looking for. So the reason I'm actually recording this video is because I was talking to my buddy about dating. And he said on his dates, he usually has 2 canned stories that he is ready to tell these women. And he asked me if I ran my first dates in a similar manner. And at the time, in the heat of the moment, I said, no, not really. But then I started thinking about it a little bit more, and there are actually 2 stories that I constantly tell on first dates. And I will also tell you why I tell these stories at the end of this video. One of these stories I cannot tell on YouTube, unfortunately, but the other one, which is this story, is the one that I can tell. So with all that out of the way, there is one other thing you need to know. I used to be someone who was very quick-tempered, quick-triggered. I had a hot temper, okay? There used to be the whole, oh, grr, I'm super macho, alpha, whatever, I see red, you can't stop me kind of thing. And I'll be honest, I love fighting. There is nothing like the thrill of fighting. And I would actually say, I like mutual combat is what I really should say. It just makes you feel alive. And there's something about being able to protect yourself, protect other people. And frankly, if someone is able to outsmart you or what may have you, if you can always have in your back pocket the threat that you could pause, do whatever you wanted to this person because you are a physical threat and they aren't, there's some sort of superiority there in some aspects. I mean, we aren't going to get too deep into that, but I really enjoy fighting. It is like my #1 passion in life. But with that said, let's get into this story, what I learned, and why I tell it on dates. So a few years ago, I was in Thailand, and I was going to a small island in Thailand with some of my friends. Some of these friends happened to be women. Now, they were nothing more than friends, only friends. That is kind of important for one of the lessons that I learned. So, we were at this, I don't know, beach party, I guess it was, venue. I don't know what to call it. And we were there having a good time. One of my friends, she's a girl, was dancing with another guy. Like I said, she's just a friend. I don't care. She ends up coming up to me saying, I don't really want to dance with this guy anymore. Can you do something about it? And I'm like, yeah, sure. But first I have to go to the bathroom. So I go to the bathroom. And lo and behold, guess what? I'm going pee, and this guy comes and pees right next to me. Little weird, but okay. And I'm like, hey, leave so-and-so alone. She doesn't want to dance with you anymore. And yeah, we're all here for a good time. Plenty of other girls here. No big deal. Can you do that? And he's like, yeah, sure, bro, or whatever. No problem. I don't know what else he said. He was like, what I do or something. I'm like, I don't know. She just doesn't want to dance with you. And so I'm like, cool, no problem. So I leave the bathroom. I go tell my friend, yeah, I saw him in the bathroom. Nothing's good, like, the situation's taken care of. I told him. He was like, yeah, sure, no problem. And so I'm like I said, not dating this girl. So I just walk off because I'm interested in other things. So I walk off. She ends up coming back to me and like hanging around me, and I'm, doing my own thing. And then this guy comes up and starts dancing on her again. And she's like, look, I thought you told him to leave me alone. And I was like, yeah, I did. And then she told him to leave him alone. She told him to leave her alone. And he was like, and still dancing with her. And I was like, look, buddy, tons of other girls more attractive than her. Just leave her alone. All right? And then in the heat of the moment, the guy shoved me. And here is where what I said at the beginning of the story kind of takes place. I'm like getting a little hot-tempered, a little quick-triggered. I'm like, don't ever effing touch me again. That is another thing. In general, like to this day, I don't like when people touch me. I've got stories about that, but don't just run up behind me and like touch me on the shoulder. I will not react the greatest to that, but whatever. So he shoves me and I shove him back and I'm like, don't ever touch me again. And then he's like, blah, 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 talking some more smack. And then he starts dancing with the girl again. And I guess he like grabbed her booty. And she was like, how dare you, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, what happened? And she was like, he just did this. And I'm like, look, dude, you can't be doing that. Like, we're going to have some serious problems. She doesn't want you dancing with her. You seriously can't just, do what he did to her. Like, come on. And then he's like, well, what are you going to do about it? I'm like, dude, I will put a beating on you. Are you kidding me? And he's like going off, blah, blah, blah. And some of my other friends are there. And they come in and they're like, dude, you really don't want these problems. He looks like a nice guy. He looks super friendly. But he's been doing jiu-jitsu, kickboxing, Muay Thai, bang kickboxing for 8 years, 10 years. I don't remember what it was back then. And they're like, you just want to go away at this point. And the guy's like, no, I can take this guy, blah, blah, blah. And then I'm like, all right, throw a punch at me. Let's see how this goes. And one thing leads to another. He shoves me. I shove him back once again. And this time I'm ready. I'm like, okay. And then he throws a punch at me. And, I just took him out pretty much. He got knocked the F out. And I'm like, okay, well, shouldn't have done that. But like I said, we're at this beach party. It's like a private venue. So there's security there. There's actually like police there. And I'm like, okay, I can't go anywhere. And then the police come, in like 2 minutes. And they're like, what happened here? But they're like freaking out kind of stuff. They see this guy out cold. Well, he wasn't out cold at that time. He was like super dizzy. And there's me just like chilling. And they immediately throw me in handcuffs. All right. And they're like, okay, this guy, blah, blah, blah. And they have people like attending to that guy. And they're like, not even really asking me what happened. They just have me in cuffs and they're trying to figure out the whole situation. And everyone's like, oh, that guy is good. He didn't do anything. It's this guy who's causing all the problems. He got what he deserved, blah, blah, blah. And mind you, it's a bunch of like Americans and Australians and Germans and not a lot of local ties there. And so the police, mainly speaking Thai, are trying to figure out what's going on. No one can really conversate with them to like a high level, I would say. But luckily, there was like maybe the venue owner, the bartender, or what may have you, and some locals there. And they eventually got the point across that, look, this guy didn't do anything wrong. And he was just like defending this girl who got her butt smacked, essentially, and was telling this guy to leave her alone. And like everyone was like, this guy's in the right. Don't worry about him. And so they like undo the cuffs, and they're starting to ask me what's going on, like what happened, blah blah blah. And I'm telling them this is what happened, but they're like looking at me confused, and I'm like, okay, I guess I'll just hang out here for a little bit longer. They told me I couldn't leave yet, and I'm like, I'm for sure going to Thai jail on this little tiny island, and who knows what's gonna happen from there. I'm like, okay, whatever. And I'm like getting ready to run, actually, because I'm like, there's no way I'm letting this happen. And then eventually, things settle down and everything gets sorted out. I'm free to go and it's all good. But what I learned from that experience is a few things. First and foremost, probably need to exercise a little bit more, what's the word I'm looking for? Temperance? Or just not be so quick triggered and quick to fight. Because like I said, I love fighting. Like, it is fun to me, like super fun. And like, if you don't know, it just makes you feel alive. And another thing I should have mentioned, when you're fighting someone who hasn't been trained, imagine you're like a varsity basketball player playing against someone who's like 6 years old. There's not a lot of resistance, if you will. So you can pretty much just toy around with these people. Like, if you've never had physical combat with someone who's trained, you probably don't understand, but it's just like a completely different game. And to add insult to injury, if you will, this guy was maybe on some illicit things, and he was, how can I say, he was heavily imbibing beverages. And I was not doing either of those things. I mean, I had maybe a couple drinks, but it's not like I was feeling anything. So, yeah, this guy just didn't have any chance. And I mean, that's another thing. It's like, if you do get into physical altercations, you need to make sure that maybe it's a more level playing field, because I could have easily got in major trouble because I was defending someone, right? Because who knows? He could have fell and hit his head weird, and then I could be, looking at a severe case, like worst case scenario kind of thing. And so conflict de-escalation is a major key that I learned, because, if I did go to jail, what would have happened? Like, Little Thai Island, like, what are the possibilities? Do they let you call a lawyer? Do they give you a phone call home? Do they, like, how do you get out? So many things could have gone wrong over something so stupid. And that's the other thing that I learned. There's a song, don't save these, if you know what I mean. And that's another thing that I kind of learned. Like, sometimes you gotta let someone make their bed and lie in it. Like, yes, this girl was my friend, but I didn't have any real duty to defend her, right? So there wasn't anything like super threatening. Like, obviously it's different in, if someone's like attacking, if you know what I mean, versus these smaller things that you can go and get security, which is what we probably should have done in retrospect. Go get security, let security handle it. They'll sort the situation out. Like, you don't need to do it for yourself. And, so many people in the United States, for example, suffer the ultimate consequence over a little bit of women action. And like I said, this wasn't even a woman I was seeing like that. So it was really immature and not smart on my part. And I learned a lot of lessons. In fact, this is one of the reasons that, a month or two ago, there were some passport bros that got in a physical altercation in Pattaya. And I made a quick response video. I'm like, you guys are pretty old, and you guys are getting after it in Thailand. Like, that is so stupid. You guys need to figure out better methods. And I said that because I had this unfortunate experience so I recognize what the possible consequences are. You could never go back to Thailand, possibly. Who knows what's going to happen to you in a Thai jail? Like, so many circumstances could occur, and it's just setting a terrible precedent for others. And so, yeah, that's really what I learned from that situation. But on a dating level, if you've made it this far, here is why I tell that story. So first and foremost, I'll tell you how I'm able to tell that story without sounding like I'm trying to show off or trying to do, impress or what may have you. The way I'm able to do it is I am able to steer conversations through the use of questions. This is very, very powerful. So, many of you may disagree, but the boy over here has got game for days. You can call me the half-black Don Juan, baby. Okay, maybe not quite that great. Maybe not like a Casanova level, but I really understand human psychology, okay? And so I'm able to steer these conversations in a way I want by asking questions. So I'll ask them, what is the most interesting experience you've had? Or something like that. And they'll tell me their most interesting experience, and then obviously they will ask me back. And once again, I lead them with this question because I want them to ask this question so I can tell this story. And the reason I want to tell this story is because it does a few things that really trigger attraction and chemistry to a certain level. And so what it does is it shows women that you are somewhat alpha. It shows them that you are a protector. So you can protect them, right? So in that story, my friend came to me because she wanted to feel safe and protected. And so it gives women a sense of ease that they can feel protected and safe with you, right? Because, you're telling a story about how you protected another woman so that she could feel safe. Another thing it does is it kind of shows that you are seen as alpha or a safety source for others, and that other people look at you in a leadership position. Because out of all of those other people and other guys that were there, she came to me. There were other guys in our group, she came to me. The other guys in my group, maybe a little bit smarter than me, especially at the time, were more in conflict de-escalation. And I was like, let's do it, right? Which they were, like I said, they were probably smarter, but I was ready to actually inflict harm. Probably can't even say that on YouTube, in order to handle the situation. And so many women want to feel safe and protected. That is like one of the most important things you can make a woman feel. And that is certainly going to provide attraction. And you gotta understand, women may not like you, but if they respect you, they are going to be massively attracted to you. I'm not going to go too deep into hypergamy and all these other things that are relevant to why I do this, but you just need to know that it is better to be respected than pretty much anything else, okay? So you don't even need to be liked that much. And it's just super good for like attraction and chemistry and progressing things, if you will. And so another thing is it shows that other women look to me for safety and protection. So it is kind of like social proof or like pre-selection that, hey, if other women can look to this guy, then I can probably look to this guy for safety and protection. And in fact, maybe I'll tell you a story at the end of this, or like a quick, not a full story like this one, but like a quick little thing from the other day that when I told this story to someone that occurred, okay? And so it is super, super powerful when you can make a woman feel safe, all right? And then the other story that I tell, which I'm not going to tell, the way I'm able to tell that story and why I tell that story is by using questions. What is the most embarrassing that has happened to you? So I tell them, or I ask them to share their experience, and then usually they ask back, what about you? And then I tell them the most embarrassing story that happened to me, which is not super embarrassing. I mean, it would be embarrassing, but there were definite benefits to that story. And the reason I tell that story is because it sexualizes the conversation and it keeps you out of the friend zone if you're able to, sexualize a conversation and have this woman view you as a source of safety, intrigue, and some other things as well. And so the final thing that I want to mention is the fact that, so I was out the other night and I was talking to this woman, and she said that she had to essentially end things with her boyfriend because she didn't feel safe and protected by him. Like, her girlfriends would confront people, but this guy wouldn't. And he did some others, like he cried in front of her, which you should never do. And I mean, realistically, if you ever get in a fight in front of your girl and you lose that fight, I'm not saying that's like the end of the relationship, but she is on a subconscious level probably going to lose a little bit of respect for you, knowing that, you know, goes back to what I said earlier in the video, that if some other guy, maybe they're smarter than you or what may have you, but if you can defeat them in physical combat, that is like the ultimate survival tactic. Like, it doesn't matter how smart you are. So if she sees you're a smart guy, but in a survival situation, you're going to get the floor mopped with you, she will inherently lose some level of respect. And that's kind of what happened here. Okay. But yeah, we're not going to get too deep into that. But what is important is you realize that safety and security are like some of the most important attraction mechanisms that you can pull. Like, if I tell these two stories, you can almost bet the fireworks are going to go off. They are almost instant attraction triggers. Like I said, they may not like me, but they are going to go from being the Sahara Desert to the Pacific Ocean, if you know what I'm saying. Probably shouldn't say that on YouTube, but I already did, so it is what it is. All right, so let's wrap up this video. Thank you for watching. I truly appreciate it. Smash the like button if you haven't already, and I will see you guys in the next video. And as always, peace, much love.